All right. Well, I guess our intro's down.
Learn the most empowering hiring techniques. Land the most desirable talent. Launch your company towards massive success. This is the Higher Power Radio Show with your host, Rick Girard.
All right. I was having lunch with a fellow CEO recently, and he looked completely wiped out. He told me he was stuck in this exhausting cycle, constantly trying to empower his leaders to own their roles, only to have to step back in and make the decisions himself. He said, Rick, I feel like I'm constantly telling my people to take the wheel and to be accountable, but the minute things get tough, they throw the keys back at me. I want I want them to own their own box, but I'm terrified of them drowning. So I keep double checking their work. And then when they just shut down and say, well, you just make the decision, I'm back to having everything on my plate. This is when I asked him, what was this costing him? His response was time, trust, and growth. I'm Rick Girard, and welcome to the Higher Power Radio Show. We help entrepreneurs and business executives win the strongest people. We do so by sharing insights from top performing rebel entrepreneurs, game changers, and industry leaders like today's guest, Brian Ferguson. He's the founder and managing partner of Fergmar. Now, since his start in real estate investing, Brian has been passionate about expanding his knowledge and sharing with others to help them attain true financial freedom. Brian's built an outstanding team of over 35 people and is personally involved with over 500 million in real estate transactions and with over 120 million in assets under management, which is what makes Brian the perfect expert for today's topic. Brian, welcome to the Higher Power Radio Show today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. So, we're going to talk a little bit about accountability. I think as most of the listeners know, we kind of prep for the show, and I'm gonna let you kind of dig into kind of this concept that you shared with me, which is the my box misconception, right? So, talk to me about a little bit about that problem that you encountered, and let's talk about kind of um, how that affected your business.
Sure. And so, I mean, starting out, kind of just some context, like accountability. A lot of people know what an org chart is. Like an org chart is like a hierarchy, right? Like who's boss virtually. An accountability chart looks very similar to an org chart, but the difference is it's not. It has the hierarchy on there, but it's more so just who's accountable for doing the thing, or who's accountable for some decision making. So that's some context there. And when we shifted our company to this about 3 years ago, a lot of the pain points you were just mentioning has just been like a 3-year transition to get from there to here. But what happens a lot of time is, you first transition the company into this accountability chart and people go, okay, it's my box. And so if you have passionate team members, they're like, hey, this is my box. And like, I want to do good and I want to do right. And I got to own everything. But then it almost gets to the point where it's like they're trying so hard to own it that maybe they don't use other people for the resource or the collaboration when needed. And then if you push back too far on that, then it's like, well, hold on, well, then you make the decision because I don't want to make the wrong one. So it's just really it's an interesting balance, and it's definitely different than I would say. I mean, I don't know. That's for the first 16 years of business. I mean, I wouldn't have understood it, and we're still trying to figure it out because it's just so different than an org chart, which is literally like, oh, well, I go to work and this is my boss and this is my boss's boss, and we just do what we're supposed to do each day.
I feel this is probably a common problem. I've experienced a similar thing, right? Especially when you have younger leaders who aren't really, like, maybe they've fallen into a role because they were good and they got promoted. I know, like, in my own life, when I first became a manager, that was like, I talk about it quite often. It's like the worst experience of my life because all of a sudden I've got all the blame and all the responsibility and none of the training. And I remember being talked to by my boss. He's like, "Well, it's your show. You gotta run it." I'm like, "Okay, but you're telling me I'm failing, so what do I do?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know what to tell you what to do. Just, try to do what I would do." And I'm like, I don't even know what that means, right?
Yeah.
So there's a certain level of uncertainty because you just don't know, right? And maybe that is kind of how or why they're not willing to take the ball and kind of really hold themselves accountable.
Well, no, I actually think it's the opposite. It's not so much that they won't take the ball, like they will. The thing is, it's like they want to, like in the beginning, it's like, I'm going to take the ball. This is my ball, no matter what. But then it almost goes too far down that path of, yes, but with some guardrails. And again, I think this can operate different in everyone. Another part of it is too, like you just mentioned the word young, like, so, in our specific, like right now, like we have 35 team members. That's due to the market shifts and downsizing and just a lot of the way the world's changed. But we had over double that a few years ago. So, I mean, it was even just, even bigger problem there. But now you take like the leadership team, like a good portion of our leadership team. So let's take someone that's, 28, 30, 34 years old. They're growing up they're going through life, marriage, children. You're trying to balance all that. You're trying to balance managing people a lot of times that are older than you. And then like in our situation, like, it's not like we had this and it's like, oh, here's the exact things we do. We've been doing it this exact same way for 15 years. And here's the playbook. And I just need you to keep doing it and manage your team. No, we're like, oh, we're creating this whole new department and this whole new position because we're growing. And they go, well, exactly how do we do this? Well, we're learning it together because we're expanding and growing, especially in today's age with AI and remote and all these just so different. I'm figuring it out with them. So sometimes I don't even have the answer. So how can they make the right one? But, it's like they want to, let me make sure I don't want to go to Brian every 5 minutes and ask questions. I want to make the right decision. But then, from my side, it's like, well, but you want to make the decision. If it's wrong, hey, at least I made the decision. And then you balance that with, well, I kind of want to be involved, but not overly involved. So, I mean, it's like a seesaw.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a challenge because then you kind of teeter into the lane of micromanagement, right? Because, so you guys run on EOS, right?
We do, correct.
Okay. So I think one of the things that I found was super helpful was, I don't know how often do you do level 10s or what have you, but, being able to kind of run through in our level 10s, but even just having the daily stand-up meetings have been super helpful in making sure that, like, just understanding where people are and where they're stuck. So
yeah, I mean, we host our level 10s weekly. All departments have level 10s weekly huddles. And like our highest level 10 is the one that I'm in. Well, I sit in the our leadership one, and I own a box, or in our chart too. But in our leadership, I mean, this started out when we first did it. I mean, we had like 15 people, I think, in our leadership team. And I remember the company that we used to onboard us was like, man, there's a lot of people in this leadership table. Like, wow. And now we're down to, including me, 6. So a lot of hard decisions, changes. But at the end of the day, like, it was just you working through getting, the right person in the right seat. And if you got the right person that's in the right seat and they get it, they want it, like that to me, that's everything. The rest you can work through, even though it's a struggle.
Yeah. So talk to me about the trust metric. I think we had talked about that a little bit about in our conversation. So
yeah, I think that's been the hardest piece for me, and you don't even realize where you maybe lack trust. So I think it's 2 things. I think you have to figure out something as you're growing to, like, how do I grow to trust? Can I trust? And you have to be very cognitive of yourself. Like me, it's as simple as, so we operate in Asana. It's just like a task management. We kind of run a majority of our company out of it. Well, there's a feature for follow-up tasks. I learned that, like, if a task is assigned to someone, right? I assigned Rick a task and it's due December 10th. And like, I have all the faith in the world, Rick's going to do it. I really don't need to, like, you're going to update the task when it's done and that's it. But if I go put a follow-up task for the 11th, like, I learned I had to self-reflect and go, I am doing that because I either don't trust or I'm micromanaging. And I'm like, which one is it? And when I started segmenting that, I would sit there and go, okay, a lot of them I quit doing. And I'm like, that's just me micromanaging. Because I'd ask myself, do I really think they're not going to get it done? Or do I just feel I have to, have, some oversight on it? So I quit doing them. And the ones where I'm like, no, I feel like if I don't put the follow-up task, there's a chance it won't get done. well, now that's the problem we need. Now we've identified, let's go have those conversations on like, with that person. So you can either gain the trust factor or make some shifts.
It's a really interesting point. Are you listening to the Higher Power Radio Show? For our podcast listeners, we're going to take a quick educational moment from our sponsors. All right, I'm digging in deeper with our guest, Brian Ferguson. Brian is the founder and managing partner of Fergmar. So we just talked a little bit about really accountability and understanding, the balance between micromanagement and, of course, building trust. So let's delve in a little bit deeper and let's go into the solution, or like how you actually solve this problem for your business.
Yeah. So kind of what I mentioned before. One, it was self-reflecting on, am I micromanaging, or is there a trust thing, right? Mm-hmm. Once you identify the ones where it's a trust issue, and I can let go of the vine over here, but I don't think I can let go here. Then you got to figure out why. And again, it's a lot of self-reflection and being honest with yourself before you can go be honest with your team and saying, do I think like they don't get it? Do they not want to do it? And we went through this of 3 years, and this goes beyond like my current leadership team. This is, what we had as a leadership team and where we adjusted, and we went to certain ones. It's like, okay, like you mentioned earlier on, like when you got promoted to a manager, and it's like, what am I doing? What do they expect from me? Well, that was some of it too. Like you put these people in positions and then you go talk to them and they're like, I don't want to be, it's not what I want to do. I really enjoyed what I was doing, but then they feel obligated to do something that they didn't want to do. And, when we started doing PI testing and PI COG, all those things, that was so helpful to realize like the right person in the right seat, doing something they genuinely like love to do. And so that was super. Or do you have the people that just don't, like they're just not a good fit for the company? Okay, so then we weeded through those. So I think that's the longest and hardest part. But like what I was really able to navigate was like, so accountability. We can go look up in the definition, like in Webster Dictionary, whatever. What we did on our term, and this was even to recent times, and it was helpful. We came up and said, let's all literally, like as basic as it sounds, we were going to write out. We all went around the room at one of our leadership, like we have our quarterly meetings. And we all wrote out what accountability meant. And it was like, at the end of the day, if I say accountability is X, Y, Z, and they say something else, and we all have 6 different opinions, well, there's the problem. And it's like some of them Googled accountability. And I'm like, what does accountability mean for Fergmar and Fergmar Capital? So we wrote it out, and we literally all initialed off on it. And now we have it inside of our L10 meeting board. And so we can go reference what it means. So that was extremely helpful. And then we took it a step further and I kind of had what I called it my die on the hill list. And it was like, these are the things that I will die on the hill for. And it took 2 ways. It took them understanding that, hey, if it's this, like I want to be in the know. And then it took me saying, if it's like, I'm going to give you an example. So like we have a large multifamily portfolio, a little over 1,000 doors. So a lot of technicians, and some of those aren't standalone complexes. So they're managed out of our corporate office. Little things. We had all these quiet rooms that we built out when we built our office. They don't really get used. Well, when we were like shifting and selling properties and buying, it got to the point like they needed somewhere to store HVAC, like window units, right? Sounds so basic. Well, they were putting them in one of the little rooms. And I remember I had I brought it up, and one of our leadership team asked, he's like, are you dying on the hill for that AC being behind that closed door? And like, even though I walked by it every day and it just drove me nuts that AC was in there, it wasn't changing revenue. It was working for them. I couldn't see it. They kept the door closed. So we used that for a few months. It was why we were in between some storage facility. But so there's a good example, right? But then another.
Let's delve into that a bit, because that's really interesting. So is die on the hill, is that actually like maybe a core value with you guys, or like an internal talking point?
It's a form now. I don't know where the term came. Well, you always hear people like, are you going to die on that hill? And so then it just. Yeah. It was like, what's Brian's die on the hill list, whether it be little things like that, like we have financial thresholds. If something changes performance by X, or if budget changes by X, because like I don't like for a while. I mean, we went from like signing paper checks to digital checks, and now I have like a finance team, and like they sign the checks, right? So like bill approval, for instance, when we got to this digital system, I mean, like there could be 800 transactions on a week. And I would review every single one. So a $3 bill from Lowe's to buy smoke detector batteries, I don't know, something random, I'd review it. And so that's where it's like, okay, now we're micromanaging. So let's back off. But hey, like the roof's an issue and it's going to be 20 grand. Yeah. Okay. I want to know about this, so.
Yeah, is it micromanaging, or is that is is
Psychosis?
is that not delegating properly?
Well, they were approving them too. It was
Okay,
how
got
many
it.
levels you're talking 5 levels of approval for a $3 bill.
Yeah.
I mean, and now, yeah, I don't think that was wrong. I think, but at a certain point, everyone's trained and knows and understands. But like now, the financial aspects, I think, are the easiest one. If it's over this dollars, it's how you get into the other things, and this is where you really have to soul search, because, like for me, like someone proposed we were going to wear Crocs, like they wanted a lax dress code on Friday, so we call it smart casual, where they can wear blue jeans on Fridays, right? I know friends that have businesses that you can wear shorts and t-shirt 5 days a week. They don't care, right? That's one of my die on the hills. Like, so I think it comes into, soul searching when, as a leader and you're making some of those decisions. Because again, the financial impacts are pretty easy to put in black and white. It's the other ones that are tough.
So I totally get where you're coming from. So like we kind of have we have something kind of similar in that we call it knockouts, from the perspective of, for us when we're hiring. Like curiosity is a very critical behavior for Intertrue, and the reason why is because what we're building, the nature of what we're building, we all need to naturally be curious. So we've actually put that into our interview process in such a way where we can ask a behavioral interview question to understand whether or not somebody truly operates under the behavior of curiosity. Um, and we can make decisions based on that. Is that something that you guys kind of look at as you're hiring people as well?
Yeah, I mean, and we don't do as much hiring at a higher level right now, but we like I mentioned PI earlier, like understand, and that's just one form of doing it, right? Your system. I think knowing what you're slowing down, being a little slower to hire, like job jackets and personality, and what do you need? I think people they don't do that. Like on our acquisition side, we hired a gentleman. We went through tons of interviews, made sure like this is the criteria and it has to meet it, and we did. He's been very successful. And then we moved someone else that was from like a construction superintendent over to acquisitions, because when we did his PI test, we realized he qualified. Well, fast forward, since we haven't been hiring as much, we're not paying for this expensive PI software, right? So we didn't have it renewed, and guy came in.
Good for you.
And they said, they're like, oh, we think he'd be a good fit in acquisitions, right? Well, acquisitions, you're meeting with people, negotiating, especially on that side of the company. Well, they're like, I think he'd be a good fit. And I'm like, but we're not going to do any testing. Literally 4 weeks he made it. Right. So, but we didn't slow down. It was just a convenient hire. And those I'm not saying they haven't worked out, but they normally don't. Like if they're not the right fit, like if someone does not like what they're doing, they can say, oh, and it's like, oh, well, we know he likes it because we asked him. That doesn't mean anything, right? Like we can say we love doing it. Doesn't mean we enjoy it,
Yeah. All right. So you guys have created a definition of accountability, and then you kind of created this die on the hill list. Anything else that you kind of put into process that kind of helped you, kind of really build in or solidify accountability in your organization?
Yeah. So we implemented a die on the hill list. And we use that. And then I'll just say the other thing is, I don't know if this really ties to accountability, but we're not perfect. So, I mean, I think you have to have that 80% rule, and you have to, like, we use the word grace inside of our leadership meeting a lot, like give them grace, like understand, like, it's not the, like this week for me is with holidays and traveling, and, so like I may not be as sharp as I am some other days or weeks, and that may be a lot for everyone. So we try to give grace, and then I've tried to get a lot better about understanding, like you mentioned, like someone's curious personality, like they all have different personalities, and trying to understand and respect their personalities, and just that's helpful too, because sometimes you just automatically assume that maybe they don't want to do, like they don't want to be accountable, they don't want to do it, or they just are they trying and like they need help, like they
Yeah.
need assistance. Like, again, we all have our stronger days and we all have our days that aren't. So
I love it. I know we didn't really delve into the definition of accountability, but like just the act of doing that is that something that like how do everybody know, like is that something that's like maybe a core value for you that you have displayed or that you share with everybody when you onboard them, or how does that solidify for your business?
it's not one of our core values, and it's well known in the leadership team. But honestly, you're saying, and this was it was at our last quarterly, so it's about a month and a half ago. But you saying that, I'm literally going to get off this call and put a task in that we really need to. We need to have it like front and center for hires and for the rest of the team, because I think 6 of 35 know what our definition of accountability is. So it's a good point.
Glad I can help.
Yeah, good point.
Perfect. All right, shoot, Brian, we're getting pretty close on time. So, if you could, what would be 2 or 3 key takeaways that you can give the audience that they can plug into their business today?
One would be, for particularly around hiring and whatnot, is right person, right seat. I had people that have been with me for a long time that aren't there anymore, and they're probably in a better place. So, and some of that's EOS wording, but you need the right person in the right seat. You can have someone that's the right person, they're just not right for your organization. So
Yeah.
I think that's very important. And that one's very hard. When you have someone that's like a rock star and they're really good at doing X things, but they do not fit the core values or inside the organization, I think that's one of the hardest things. But I would recommend people get there sooner than later.
You know what? Actually, before you get into the other ones, I have found that and I did an article on this a while back. So, right person, right seat, and right it is really like a lot of times we only interview for the right seat, and the right seat to me is that they have the skills to do the job. And one of the things is that if you have somebody who's a rock star in one organization, they can fail miserably at another organization pretty easily. And usually they'll recognize that first and jump ship. And it has and the right person really has to do with positioning and value alignment. Do you kind of look at it the same way, or do you view it differently?
No, I would say that's probably pretty spot on. Like, do they meet the company's purpose? Do they meet your core values? Because again, like you can have someone that's really good, but they just have a very selfish personality, or they can just be a cancer within the organization. Like our organization, like we're smaller and lean, and we're like a big family, and everyone has each other's backs. But a lot of people don't operate in that, and that doesn't mean that they're not good at what they do. You can be really good at what you do and just not be a team player.
So very true. So very true. Yeah. Right. So didn't mean to derail you on that, but I love the person, right seat piece. So right person, right seat. What would be the other kind of takeaways you can give?
From someone, like from my perspective, I'd say you need the right person in the right seat, and then once you have that, give it time too. Like when we defined what accountability, part of it was like understand that everything won't happen like in the next minute, right? Like my personality is very much I want it now. Like I'm aggressive. Like I want to accomplish it right now. Like let's get it done. But they also probably have 50 other things that they're doing. So like give them grace, work with them. Once you have the right person in the right seat and they care, like my leadership team is the right people, they're passionate about it. So we have that. But now, like, give them the grace and like grow and help them grow with, I guess, helping them grow without stepping on their toes or getting in their way. And that's not an easy thing to do, but it's big. And then it's kind of ties to that one. But when you do have that right person, right seat, value them. Yeah. Because it's just as it's easy to keep someone that shouldn't be there, it's also you can become numb to what people are doing and not value the way you should for when you do have the A team.
Do you actually have a die on the hill list that everybody knows about?
Yeah, no, it's a document that's published inside of our company manual, like that they can see. Like it is, it went from like 10 pages and we summarized it down to 1. But no, from dollar values and everything, they can literally reference against the die on the hill list. Yeah.
I love that. Is no Crocs on it? Because I think that's a brilliant one.
yeah, no Crocs is definitely on it. They know, like, they can give out a few extra jean days every now and again, but we will never wear Crocs or Hey Dudes to the office. So,
well, you shouldn't. You're not in the medical space. I mean, otherwise it just, I'm right there with you 100%. Brian, thanks so much for your time investment today, and I want to welcome you to the Higher Power Radio community. Now, what would be the best way in which members of the audience can find your company?
So fergmarcapital.com is my website. You can always reach out to us there, or I'm active on LinkedIn, and then I'm on Facebook. So Brian H. Ferguson, you can find either one of those, and always happy to give advice or help anyone that needs it. Yeah,
love it. Great content. So I want to thank you for tuning in this week's episode of Higher Power Radio. A quick thanks to our team, Brian Colburn, Andrea Ballin, and Ayla Girard. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe, review, and share. After all, this show's for you. We want to continue to bring you valuable content week after week. You can check us out further at Hire, H-I-R-E, Power, P-O-W-E-R, Radio, R-A-D-I-O.com, or you can check us out on the Work Defined Network. You can also drop me an email at Rick, R-I-C-K, at intertru, intertru.ai. I'm your host, Rick Girard, and you have been listening to the Higher Power Radio Show. Aloha.
Thank you for listening to Higher Power Radio. Catch our LinkedIn Live show every Tuesday at noon, or download the podcast on iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, or your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate you joining us on Higher Power Radio with your guide to hiring success, Rick Girard.